Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Hi guys, how are we all doing Friday afternoon, right? All good? Woo! Come on guys, let's have a bit of energy in the room. I know that some of you might rather be at the pub, but look, stick around, we've got some great talks for you this afternoon. We're going to talk about EEAT. My name's Amanda. I'm going to talk to you right now about SEO for YMYL websites. Before I start, a little bit about me. So this is me, this is my dog Ted. In my spare time, I love taking him for a walk. He doesn't look like that anymore. He now is adolescent, he's 18 months old. And for any of you that have an adolescent golden retriever or any other dog like that, my thoughts are with you. Stick in there, get to the 3-year stage, it will be absolutely fine. In terms of us as an agency, I'm the owner of an agency called Cedarwood Digital. We are specialists in the YMYL space, and we specialize in SEO, PPC, and digital PR. In my spare time, I love to travel, and as you can probably hear from my accent, I'm originally from Melbourne in Australia. So literally, I've come halfway around the world for this today. So let's talk about YMYL. So first off, before I go through some kind of handy tips and tricks as to what you can do to optimize your website for this, let's go through and define the actual topic. So what is YMYL? So YMYL stands for Your Money, Your Life. And it's essentially a term that Google has given to websites which might have an impact on someone's money or someone's life. Now, YMYL falls into, it's essentially 4 categories, but it's really 3 categories and a kind of catch-all of other. So the first one is medical. So this can be topics that can harm mental, physical health, environmental health, or any kind of safety. So we're thinking websites like pharmaceuticals, legal medical advice, anything along those lines. Second one is financial, so anything again to do with money or finance, topics that could damage a person's ability to support themselves, so we're thinking payday loans, financial advice, anything in that category. And the final category is society. So society essentially relates to topics that could negatively impact a group of people or negatively impact society as a whole. And why are they bucketed into YMYL? Well, first off, because they may harm either the individual, that may harm other people that are affected by that person, or they could harm groups of people or society. So there's 3 different types of people that these can harm. And why can they do that? Well, firstly, because the topic itself is harmful or dangerous, or secondly, because the topic can cause harm if the content is not accurate or trustworthy. Now, if you're not sure if your content falls into that category, luckily Google does give us some guidance on this. And if you look at the chart up here, if you're looking at information, something like evacuation routes for a tsunami, obviously straightforward, would definitely be YMYL. Maybe would be a weather forecast, particularly if it's warning you of the impending tsunami, and unlikely would be music award winners. Advice, when to go to the emergency room, obviously super straightforward. How often to replace a toothbrush, potentially if you don't do it, could have negative consequences. And how frequently to wash jeans, unlikely to be YMYL. So why is it so important to SEOs? Well, the first thing that I say is it's important to us as SEOs because it's important to Google. And back in 2021, Google said this: our systems give even more weight to content that aligns with strong EEAT for topics that could significantly impact the health, financial stability, or safety of people. We call these Your Money, Your Life topics. So Google is essentially saying to us that it is going to give additional weight to EEAT values on websites that fall into these categories. So if you have a website that falls into this category, it is in your interest to make sure that it aligns with these values. Second reason, algorithm updates. So there's been a lot of them recently, and many of them are focused around spam, low quality, and also ensuring that we have high quality content. All key EEAT principles. So again, having a website that aligns like this is very valuable. And finally, from a commercial perspective, if you are in a YMYL space that doesn't allow advertising, then performing well in this space can be great from a commercial perspective. Less ads means a more improved click-through rate, and therefore you're more likely to get a better return from your SEO investment. So with all of this said, what do we need to do to get websites in the YMYL space ranking well and performing well for SEO? So I've got 6 things to go through. The first thing is to create a satisfying amount of high-quality content. And what do I mean by this? Well, firstly, it needs to be factually accurate. So factual accuracy is absolutely key. Is your page factually correct, regularly refreshed, and is it supported by trusted external links, or is it authored? Are you showcasing that the information on your page is truthful, and are you backing that up with additional support? Secondly, let's talk about the length of the content. So, does the length of the content itself give enough information to the user to answer their questions? Because a big part of YMYL and performing well in this space is matching your user intent and your user purpose. And it's very easy to want to just write absolute chunks of content, similar to what we see in the GIF here. But sometimes that isn't the best way to answer the user's question. Google even tells us that actually posting daily, or for any specific frequency for that matter, doesn't help ranking better with search results. Rather, it's about ensuring that the content that you have is factually correct, and that you have enough of this factually correct content to answer the user's questions, purpose, and intent. So what type of content can we look at on our website to do that? First off, buying guides are a really great addition to YMYL websites. Why? Because they showcase our expertise, that we know the products really well. They also showcase that we're able to give the user a lot of good information that they might need to consider before they actually go ahead and make their purchase. So these work really well. In some instances, you can actually combine a buying guide with reviews. And in this instance, you really are hitting all of the EEAT. You've got the experience from the reviews side of things, and you've got the expertise, authority, and trust from the guide style. So this is done really well here. You're giving users everything that they need to make an informed decision. FAQs are another great option. So again, targeting specific questions that people are asking. You can use tools like Also Asked. You can use Ahrefs keyword research tool to find out what people are asking and answer them accordingly. But it's not just about creating content. You've got to look at the type of content that you're producing to match your audience. And what I mean by that is if you are looking for an accountancy software or an accountancy service, there's two very different results you might be looking for. So firstly, if you want information on, let's say, filling out a tax return, chances are that you want content produced by an expert in accounting. By contrast, if you're looking for software that's actually going to prepare that tax return, then a forum discussion around what people are looking for, what people have experienced, is likely to be much more valuable. And we see this in the search results, because for the first, we can see that how to fill in a self-assessment tax return is a very informational-based query. And websites that are performing well for this are matching that user intent of wanting information about how to do something. They're backing that up from an EEAT perspective by authoring it, and within that author profile, they're giving us lots of information about that individual and why he's qualified to write that content. By contrast, if we're looking for accounting software, then we're presented with a website that gives us a lot of different options with reviews, pros and cons, and allows us to make a decision on that. Also, the reviews on this are slightly different, so we're looking at more of an experience-based experience where we have a UGC piece of content, so essentially a user review of someone who's actually experienced that software that's then giving it the tick of approval. So when you're thinking about the content that you're creating, thinking about that user intent match and how you can match it to the audience. You also need to be presenting that content well. And back in 2021, John Muller said to us, basically, that you need to ensure that it's not enough for your content to just be great and authoritative, but it also needs to be presented in a way that looks good and not presented in a way that looks amateurish, as this can reflect on how your website's perceived. So we're looking at things like, is the content free from spelling and stylistic errors? Was it produced well, or is it sloppy or hastily produced? Does it display well for mobile devices? And does your website function properly? In addition to this, there was a great Moz Whiteboard Friday a few weeks ago that looked at reading patterns for content optimization. So when we're talking about matching that user purpose and intent, thinking about how content is displayed on your website and the different patterns of people that are engaging with it will really help you to match what they're looking for and answer that query well. Finally, because we are on the topic of the EEAT, don't forget it. Authoring is really valuable on this to make sure you've got that satisfying content. Who's it written by? Who's it been reviewed by? And also when? Has it been fact-checked? All of that information adds a lot of value. External linking. So again, if you've got content where you're talking about a particular topic, like an average NHS compensation, linking externally to a trusted resource, in this case the NHS annual report, can really add weight to the value of the article that you've got. And if you're in e-commerce, being listed as an official stockist is the biggest tick of approval you can probably get from a specific brand. So again, something to consider. Second point, match your user intent. So the first thing you have to do is try and understand and establish what the user intent is. So we work with Ahrefs' AI intent tool, which we find to be really, really valuable. And in this instance, just to show how it works, our search term is medical negligence, and it's deemed that around about just over half of people are looking to gain knowledge and information about medical negligence. So it doesn't surprise me that the people that are ranking at the top are actually answering that question and giving that information. They're starting off with a clear definition, what is medical negligence, or explaining what clinical negligence is, and they're going on to demonstrate what that actually is. Definitions demonstrate knowledge, and if you are looking to showcase information in this way, it's also worth thinking about where on the page specific content is structured. Starting off with a definition can showcase that expertise really well and make sure that you're getting your point across. But on a user intent point, user intents change over time. And we've seen this specifically on the payday loans term, but there's tons of other terms where this has happened. So in this particular instance, there's been 15 changes in the top 10 in the last year, which is a lot. It looks like this. So if you work in that sector, I imagine it's incredibly stressful right now. In terms of how it's changed, well, according to AI, the intent used to be about financial assistance for payday loans, and we can see that in the titles here. Now it's looking more at short-term loan options, and again, you can see in the way that the SERPs have changed that that intent match has again changed. So stay relevant. Make sure that you understand what that user intent is and that you're matching it accordingly. Point 3, ensure your website has clear and satisfying information. And what do I mean by that? Make sure that you are telling people about you. They want to know. They want to know who you are. They want to know why they should trust your brand, why they should engage with your service, and why they should buy your product. Different ways, again, that you can do this. Looking at profiles of your staff members is a really nice way to start, especially if you're in an industry which requires a lot of trust. Talk about their experience, talk about their expertise, and demonstrating it this way is a really nice way to go. If you're in e-commerce or anything where you're selling a product or someone might need to get in touch, having a really clear contact us page, again, gives that clear and satisfying information. Let them contact you and give them a number of options: telephone, email, social media, even an address some people like to write. Just make sure you have those options available to them. Similar for delivery and returns. So again, if someone needs to return that product or they've got an issue with it, they can trust knowing that you have a really good delivery and returns policy. Point 4, showcase your trust signals. When I was little, I used to watch Mr. Bean, and this episode of it where he was at the dentist terrified me from going to the dentist for years. I still don't like going to the dentist, but I've gotten over this. But the point of this GIF is that you wouldn't want to be going to a dentist who is like this. Show people why they can trust you. Firstly, through external tools like Trustpilot and FIFO. If you don't have access or you don't want to pay for the external tools, something like Google My Business, which is free to set up, is a really nice place to start. Depending on your sector, you might want to look at something like a case studies. Humans will buy from humans, and if you need to give that human touch and that human experience, then case studies can be a really nice way to do that. You can also use industry accreditations. So these are really nice, and in YMYL sectors, we tend to find more than any particularly that you get these industry accreditations, and they are a really nice thing to have. And if all else fails, just tell people why they should work with you. Make it really clear. So you can talk about things like how long you've been established, how many people are in your team, what experience you've got, how much experience you've got. You can tell them why they should trust your service. If you're a retailer, you can talk to them about how much warranty they've got on a particular product or anything along those lines. Just don't be afraid to tell them and give them this information. Point 5, check your reputation. And I had to put Taylor Swift meme in here because I know she's really popular at the minute, but I'm not talking about Taylor Swift reputation. That said, if anyone has any tickets to a Taylor Swift concert and you need a friend to go with, I am your new best friend. Come and talk to me after the talk. When I'm talking about reputation, what I mean is your reputation. So how many times have you Googled yourself recently? How many times have you looked online to see what people are saying about your brand? If you haven't, I really would recommend you do it after this talk. Have a look, because what people are seeing online, that's what Google's seeing, and that's what your potential customers are seeing as well. If you're not sure how to do it, 2 really simple searches that you can undertake. So firstly, brand search, pop your brand in, minus your website. Secondly, an external review search. So pop in your brand and reviews, and again, minus your website away. Really nice way to just see what people externally are saying about you. And Google gives us some guidance in terms of what it's looking for when it comes to this kind of review. So good reputation would be things like, reputable external articles showing the brand positively, top ranking list on a reputable website, links to awards and positive reviews. Obviously bad would be, the negative external articles, low ratings on review sites, and, an article on criminal behavior. So it showcases the importance of building up that reputation, particularly if you sit in the YMYL space. So on the topic of building reputation, my sixth and final point is build on it by using digital PR. And there's a lot of different ways in YMYL that you can do this. You can do it through newsjacking, you can do it through thought leadership, through data-led pieces, through reverse digital PR. And a lot of people that we speak to in this space say, I think digital PR is really difficult because journalists don't want to touch this, or journalists don't want to talk about vaping, or this medical thing, or pharmaceuticals, or this and that. The key is that you have to make it something journalists want to talk about while keeping that relevancy of your brand. So to give you a couple of examples, from a newsjacking perspective, there was a great talk yesterday about how you can utilize experts to really get the most out of them. And I always say, work with what you have. Your client's expertise is one of your richest yet cheapest assets. And what I mean by that is their expertise is so valuable, yet in some cases it's free. You just need to ask them for it. An example of where this has worked really well is with a medical negligence law firm. So in this instance, we were talking about signs and symptoms of cervical cancer. They have a cervical cancer negligence section for the website. We started off by outreaching some expert comments to the Express. We then used newsjacking to tie that in with specific events that were happening. So Cervical Cancer Awareness Week 2023, the NHS then ramped up the HPV vaccine. We newsjacked that again, and Awareness Week 2024. Get your hands on some expert comments, get a content calendar and get a calendar out there, see what's coming up and see where you can put your brand at the center of the conversation. These kind of comments are great because they're really hitting those EEAT signals and showcasing your expertise. If you can't do it in the real world, tie it in with something that people care about. So in this particular instance, we actually looked at coronation streets and we evaluated some storylines where medical negligence had occurred. Now, in this instance, we were still able to use the expertise, but the reach was a lot broader because all of a sudden we were able to engage with an audience that was passionate about soaps. Again, this is something that you can do, connecting two different things together. If you think your industry is a bit dry, just marry it with something that's more exciting and that journalists want to cover. And this worked really well for both the Daily Star and the Express, so again, publications that cover a lot of soaps. If you're looking for newsjacking ideas, Google News Archive is my absolute go-to. I would highly recommend it. You can have a look at what's been done in the past as well and have a look through. Thought leadership is another great idea, and in some instances you don't actually have to bring any new information. It's just about collating information that you have. So in this particular instance, we worked with a financial services client to just bring together all of the government grants that were available. Putting all of that information in one place is really valuable to the user. It's something that you guys can do. And there was recently a survey which showcased that around about 52% of people said cost of living was the absolute number one thing they were talking about. So it's very important to be able to tap into that, and with this you can do it quite well. You can also look at things like fines or other financial concerns that people might have. So for a road traffic accident lawyer, we did 5 ways that passengers can land you fines. And that can be things like not securing your dog properly or incorrectly using a phone. By doing this, we're able to tie it in with the human cost of living, but we're also able to tie it in with our clients' expertise in the road traffic accident sector. Data-led content is also a really, really nice way to do it. And this works particularly well in sectors where you traditionally thought leadership and newsjacking might be a little bit more difficult. Let's look at the gaming and casino space, for example. So for a casino client, you can look at things like odds of and tie that again in with a soap. So in this particular piece, we looked at calculating who was most likely to die in the Emmerdale Christmas special based on previous people that had died. We took all the data, we basically calculated it, and as a result of that, we were able to predict the odds of who was most likely to do that. We could tie it in with our casino brand and tie it in with a soap to make it relevant to an audience. You can build links this way. You can also use your client's internal data. So with this particular client, they were the victim of essentially a loan cloning, and that's where another company pretends to be them and essentially enacts a scam. We took their data, we analysed it to identify who was most likely to be a victim of this, got plenty of coverage for it, and also got a part on the BBC. The value of this to the client's reputation is significant because it's helping them to tackle an ongoing problem they have and to showcase their expertise trust signals really well. If you're looking for data and you don't have your own, there's also a ton of resources that you can use here that are really effective. And finally, we spend a lot of time going to journalists, but why not make them come to us? Building content hubs on your website is a really effective way of getting people to link into you. You can do it with a whole range of topics. A couple of examples here in the YMYL space. In the medical sector, building a cosmetic surgery statistics hub and ranking it. As a result of that, journalists came on, they took our content, and we built links to websites, good do follow links that you wouldn't traditionally get from naturally outreaching. Works well for content, works well for digital PR. Secondly, with this client, we worked out the cost of being a vegan in 2024. It's gone up, it's got more expensive. And again, ranked it and got some really, really, really great links off the back of that. So to summarize, SEO is critical in YMYL industries. Keep your EEAT in mind, showcase your trust, and build your reputation. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, please come and speak to me afterwards or connect with me on LinkedIn.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.